welcome.
Hey, put it back, yo.
How many coffees has this guy had? Not enough. Less sleep, more coffee.
The crash out is going to be wild.
Got Liam with the double headphone action down.
What is happening with our producer? He's got two headphones on. He's rolling deep. We're going?
We're rocking. We're live.
This is all part of the episode. This all happening here. Man, I feel sorry for the coffee industry because all coffee people want to do is like master their craft, serve great drinks, roast great coffee, source great coffee, do all that. And now we live in a world where it's like you've also got to be a master of social media as well.
Yes, requirement to entry, it seems.
Yeah, and it feels like it's like you can just feel it whenever you're like in local cafes or whatever. They're just like, oh God, we've got to focus on this thing now or we've got to make it work. And I mean, obviously, I think if you just serve a great product, you probably might do well. But in today's landscape, a little bit of social media and knowing what you're doing there can't hurt. Luckily, our guests today are just us. Because
we are the guests today.
We are the guests. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Stop,
guys, down the back, please.
It's you guys.
But Ben, as well as being, Q grade, a sensory instructor and certified, as well as being a World Barista Championship judge, he is also a brand strategist. He has his own company that works on brand strategy for multiple clients, for a plethora of clients. One of the ones that, like, from the early days, he started off at 5 Senses and has, grew that to be one of the biggest roasteries in Australia to date. So there's really important stuff about, like, I think even before social, this is more branding. It's just about knowing yourself and who you are and what you're putting out to the world.
Yeah, deep inside. And having that big picture, it's super exciting for me to be able to quiz you more, Rowan, because obviously you have Golden Brown Coffee, your kind of media and coffee brand, with some incredible social media success. It's been amazing to watch. And honestly, I know the theory and some of the concepts around the social media and work with different brands on their whole marketing strategy, but managing that whole environment of social media, you guys have really got it nailed. So I'm excited to hear a few of the hot tips there that maybe I can put into use and some of our listeners can put into use as well.
Oh, thank you. And one of the things that I do like is, like when we first started and it was just Golden Brown, I was like, we're learning a lot here and I'm talking, but I'm like, have we just built something here that like our lessons aren't valuable to others? Maybe it only applies to us. But we've also applied it across A, the podcast, B, across multiple other businesses and seen success in pretty much every category. So I think there's some like pretty great learnings. We spoke with Maxwell, Colin Dashwood the other day, and he was like, when you do something enough times across different platforms, you take those key learnings and those things are probably right. And I think that's what we can share.
The meta-analysis of social media success. That's what we're here for.
I think that's what we can share today. So, I mean, we didn't even do the intros here, but you know us. I'm Rowan Cook. I make coffee on the internet, as we just said.
And I'm Ben Bicknell, and I judge people who make coffee on the internet, but only if it's a really cool social reel, and then I really judge them.
And together we are It's Just Coffee, the coffee podcast for those who know it's never just coffee.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a quick word from one of our sponsors, Apax Lab. Elevate your coffee experience with Apax Lab mineral concentrates. Apax Lab's precision-engineered formulas, including tonic, jam, and lilac, are designed to enhance the coffee's natural flavors. Not going to change it, it's just going to enhance it. It's going to bring out the vibrant acidity, the rich sweetness, or if you use lilac, it might bring out those delicate floral notes that you've been looking for. Trusted by world-class cafes and even barista champions, Apax Lab helps you unlock your coffee's full potential. Discover more at apaxlab.com. Wait, where was that again, Sonam?
The internet.
Oh, okay. Thought he was going to say the website. Thanks.
Dak Simpson just won the World Barista Championship, officially making him the best barista on the planet. And guess what Milky used to win? Riverina Fresh. So yeah, I guess it makes it the best milk in the world. Well, that's what I've decided anyway. Smooth, creamy, and designed specifically for coffee, the same milk trusted by the world champion. If you've got a cafe, you can try it for free right now at riverinafresh.com.au. Go see why the best in the world pours Riverina Fresh.
Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors at Eco Barista. The reason I sound like this is because they got massages at our stand at Mice, and so I'm getting a massage while recording this message for you. They're the best sponsor of the pod that we could have had. They have the best eco products. This probably sounds really pornographic, but it's not. I'm just getting a massage. They have the best eco-friendly coffee products. They got coffee bags that you can design yourself. They got cups, they got iced coffee cups. They got everything you need. So make sure to support them because they support us. Head to ecobarista.com.au and get 15% off your first purchase when you sign up. Oh, mama, that's good. Now we're going to dive into the social sides of things, but I think where you stand, and I'm going to give it my brief analysis on the landscape of social and how it's changed over the last 10 years and why it's hard. But I actually want to start with you because you work on brand strategy, and I feel like that is going to be the core really of like everything that's going to go out to social. It's bigger than that. It's all of your communication that goes out. But I find sometimes niching down, knowing what you're talking about, picking your lane, I call it the North Star. Having that thing that you believe in as a core value and making sure that everything ladders up to that, as well as having some other pillars that you can kind of lean on that lead up. But can you tell us how you'd look at like, let's say a cafe or a roastery and their brand strategy?
Yeah, it's a big topic, big question. And I mean, I think we can frame up saying that social media is just a particular channel of communication. And then the content that you put into it is just particular messaging through that delivery mechanism. So in and of itself, it's not brilliant. It's going to be what you make of it and why you are doing it. And so I guess zooming back out, I think it's critical for any coffee business, or really if you're creating your own personal brand as well, is to have some foundations of your identity that's going to help you filter down into all of the different communications you do. So, generally you can talk about this as like your mission, vision and values, or a North Star, or the purpose, which is kind of similar to your mission. But really you've got this underlying like, why did I create this business? Why am I even doing this as an entity? That's kind of not a particularly tangible thing. It's more about the reason for being, right? That can guide the purpose there. Then you've got your vision of like, where are you heading? So like, I like to see this as like, we're planting a flag somewhere in the future. And what does this future state look like, right? Either for your customers. So if I'm a cafe owner and I'm establishing this new cafe, my vision is that I want this particular region of this city to have a vibrant coffee culture that brings community together and creates connection. Maybe that's the vision. And so that in the future state is that people are more connected. And then you've kind of got your values, which really should guide, I think, a lot of the narratives that we put out as brands is like, how do I want to conduct myself as a business kind of going forward? Do I want to be talking about empathy, or is it about precision and quality? Is it about cutting edge innovation? These are all different values that we could have that are really going to start shaping up, well, what are we talking about and how do we talk about it? So the topics and the tone. And so I think, asking some of these questions, having some of that written down is really valuable because, as you said, stuff gets busy. You're balancing. If you're a small business owner, you're juggling many different tasks, many different items. If you're a big business, you've still got a lot of different pressures on. What do you communicate about? Having some reference points can be so valuable in keeping it on track and not just making work or being busy.
Yeah, not just feeling like you need to post and putting something out there or communicating in some way. Yeah. And obviously brand strategy is a huge thing with like that dives deep and that. But like if you're a small business that isn't paying someone to do that for you, then I would just find your purpose for being, your values, what you believe in, and then have that on a big page, have it in a deck. And every time you're communicating something, just look back at that and going, are we achieving that thing? Yes. My example is we look at ourselves at Golden Brown, our tagline was coffee without the snob. And it was this idea that everyone deserves a great cup of coffee no matter what. And so that was like, if you're making a mocha pot, that's great, and we're going to show you how to get the best out. If you're doing French press, if it's espresso, if you're buying coffee from the supermarket, hey, don't feel bad. We'll tell you how to get the best out of that coffee or which one is best. We're going to teach you how to brew at home because baristas were gatekeeping that knowledge years ago, or like COVID, there was a boom. Everything was about helping people make a better cup of coffee and enjoy coffee more. And so everything that we tried to push out would be that. And if it wasn't, sometimes we'd look back and go, this did not ladder up to anything and it doesn't fit and it's not right.
Yeah.
And maybe we're chasing a view or we were chasing the wrong things. And when you come back to your core principles and values, that's when I feel like you really succeed.
Yeah. And I would also say that I think you've got this core principles, core values, but then also understanding what kind of business model you are and what you need to communicate out. So are you a B2B business or a B2C? So is your audience consumers or is it industry professionals or is it other businesses?
Yep.
And then the kinds of messages that are going to resonate with them about what you're trying to do.
Yep.
So if I'm trying to be this amazing suburban cafe that's bringing community together, okay, I'm probably going to be talking to the consumers in that region. And what do they need for me to be seen as that and to establish in the eyes of the beholder? Because that's really what a lot of communication is how relevant is it and how impactful is it for that audience? So what does an average consumer in that region need to see from you to understand your values, to understand what you're bringing, to help them feel included and part of your community? So you've kind of got this task here of communicating to them, and then you can start creating your different marketing kind of avenues and strategies to address those.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what we're going to address here as we come into social media, first off, I think we'll broadly talk about it and we'll talk about how it's evolved over time, what you can do to stay on top of it, how you can be better at it. But then we'll also look at like the different kind of coffee industry people and where it works. We can look at sourcing, roasters, cafes, even like baristas and individuals, because I think baristas for a long time have struggled to find like, where do I progress my career without changing career? And I think creating a personal profile is a really interesting way of doing that, more than ever, like going around Host, you were seeing, all these barista, competitors that are now the faces of Time More products or whatever kind of popping up. So there's interesting ways to kind of build your own brand through that as well.
And I think it's an interesting space for skill building, like professional skill development. Even if you're not particularly excited or inspired about being on camera or wanting to build a social media presence, I think the skills that you develop as you go through it, are probably pretty common hospitality skills.
Yeah.
Good communication, good service, explaining things, being kind of welcoming. But then also needing to do that for social media, you will refine your expertise in that kind of communication in short, engaging ways. You'll look at how do I explain something about this coffee or this drink or this origin in a really short, clean snapshot. So there's a real efficiency, I feel like, in operating in the social media space, or there should be for the best performing.
Yeah.
That's my impression, but you can tell me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, let me start off by like looking at where social media has changed maybe in the last 10 years or
Only
that
a
kind
little
of
bit.
thing. Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, it's changing every day. But the biggest problem that people face is we've moved from follower-based content where you would follow someone like a cafe and you get their content in your feed.
Sure.
We now work off it being interest-based. Instagram and TikTok aren't showing you who you follow. They're showing you what you're interested in, what you have shown to them that you care about. If you linger on a video for 10 extra seconds, even if you don't like it, it's like, oh, they were intrigued by this video about
Feeds you more of that.
So then you get fed more of that. Like you can look at companies now that built a huge following earlier. They have like 400,000 followers. And if you look at their reels, they're getting an average of 1,000 to 2,000 views per reel. So this is challenging because a lot of like small creators and cafes and that were like, well, I used to just post like muffins are ready and people who followed us would see that. And now no one sees anything. And it's like, that's tough. But it's also because Instagram is like, well, no one really cared about that post.
Yeah.
Sorry. So now we're showing them the stuff that they care about. And so you need to, as this person, create value and a story for people to want to listen and want to care about what you're saying. So that's kind of how it's changed and why it's become difficult and why small businesses, I think, are struggling with it.
So on that point, so I completely agree. People only should be seeing what's actually of use to them or what they value. How do you figure that out? How do you find out what people value or what they respond to? Is it just a trial and error process?
So I look at especially TikTok even more than Instagram as like this amazing market research, because although a lot of cafes are like, oh, now people aren't seeing our content, the great benefit that you have is you could start at zero. You could start at 0 followers, post a video, and it could be seen by 10, 20,000, 50,000, a million people. If you make something good that people care about, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, it will be seen. And so there can be a bit of trial and error in that. I think this is where your brand's strategy of having a purpose and making sure that you know what you're talking about is great. There are certain things that beyond knowing what is going to work, there are a few tips that I can give that will help.
Please.
Video is often going to be key. And if not, if it's going to be a still, there needs to be a captivating piece of text or something that drags people in, whether it's the caption or on the screen. For instance, if you posted about a coffee list ranking the best coffee in the world and Sydney ranked higher than Melbourne, it might be like a picture of a Sydney cafe and it's like, watch out Melbourne, Sydney might have the new crown of coffee. And there's interest that drags people in, that makes them want to comment. You're going to do well when people are engaging with your comment, commenting, sharing, saving. These are the metrics that mean that you're doing well. But I think video in general is key. Keep them short. You need to start your video with whatever the value proposition or the problem is for the consumer. I know this sounds obvious, but please don't start your video with, hey, it's Rowan from Golden Brown, swipe. People have swiped already. Hey, it's Ben from swipe.
What?
No
You
one
swiped me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ben, but I
Not
did.
swiping left?
I wouldn't swipe if I knew you, but you have to understand this message isn't going out to your followers anymore. Imagine you're random Joe Blow out in the middle of nowhere and you swipe and this video comes up. If it goes, hey, it's swipe. But if it comes up and it goes, I'm going to show you how to fix your coffee in 3 steps or whatever it is. That's a very basic, like clickbaity kind of one.
Getting to the point.
Saying something, what is someone going to get out of this video right at the start?
Yeah.
Is they're more likely to finish it, because the way that you get more views, the first thing that you need to worry about is the first 3 seconds of the video. On average, people have swiped past your video in 1.86 seconds. 1.86. Hey, that's how long you have to get people to keep watching. And so Instagram is now measuring how many people, what percentage of people get past the first 3 seconds. So you should be aiming to you want 50% of people or more to stay past the first 3 seconds.
Yep.
If you do that, you will start getting some numbers. Keep the video short and concise so there's no time. The next thing you're being rewarded for is getting people to the end of the video. If you can have a 20-second video, I'm baffled. There are some videos we've done that are a minute long and the average completion rate is about 50%. So a minute long, and some of the view counts are at 1.8 million. So I'm 900,000 people watched on average, watched this entire video.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, you can't argue with that numbers. If you make a video as a cafe or whoever it is, and it gets those numbers, if you can go, we got 50% of people to watch through, it's going to get views. You can go into the analytics on your video and people aren't, I'm getting blocked by this or I'm shadow banned or whatever you're saying.
Yep.
Look at the numbers and you'll see that people are swiping away from your video at a certain point, and that's why. So it's important to look at your past videos and realize, when are people swiping away? Why is it? A lot of the time you say hey, it's me from swipe. You can see the Instagram will give you a graph where people stop watching your video.
Yeah.
So you can clearly see why or when people swiped away. So they're the kind of key metrics of get people in the first 3 seconds, do your best to keep people along to the end. So are you keeping that one piece of information, that final thing for the end?
Yeah.
And then when you get to the end, wrap up quickly. Don't ramble on,
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of people who do those lists where it's the top 3, whatever. They'll go 3 and they'll give a long explanation. 2, long explanation. 1, short explanation, cut out. Because they know that once people hear 1, they're going to be okay, I've heard what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm going to swipe away now.
So is that kind of when I asked about like how do people gauge whether what they're doing is working,
Yep.
right? Or how to improve it, is maybe it's first thinking about what are you trying to communicate and what is going to be interesting for your audience.
Yep.
Get to the point in terms of the content that you're presenting. So start with the problem or the issue and then measure, like look at some of the metrics specifically on video and Instagram and TikTok about how long are people watching for and what percentage of the viewers are watching through to the end.
Yeah.
That kind of the flow of that.
Yep, absolutely. And that intro doesn't have to, there are a few different kind of ways that you can do it. There's, for intro hooks, there's like problem and solution. There's, something controversial. There's a whole list of like ways that hook can go in. Sometimes it's just a visual hook. Like we did a video the other day that performed really well. I was at Beta Coffee and Chris Mabry was spraying his filter coffee with this mist. And you're like, wait, why are you spraying my coffee with mist? So we have a verbal hook. Why are you spraying my coffee with mist? We have the visual hook, mist being sprayed over coffee.
Yep.
And I think we had a text hook on the screen that said, why is this man misting my coffee? And so there are three things that if I don't have sound on, I can see a mist and I see a cue, why is this man misting my coffee? If I have sound on, I hear it. And so there's three reasons why someone might continue watching that story. And the basics flow, get your pencils out, write it down, is hook, first 3 seconds. You want that thing that's going to set up a premise of what are people going to get out of this video? What are we exploring? You then want to explain that thing in a very short and concise, clear way that's understandable. And then you want a conclusion that's quick to exit out of that video that'll often bring you back to that first kind of point of like...
Explain, conclusion.
Yeah. It's a newspaper article.
Yep.
When you read a newspaper article and like the top
Headline.
thing is like, how do you get away with this? And you're like, who, what? And then you go in and it goes, blah, 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 did this thing. And then you read the information about why. And it's basically a newspaper article, Yeah. And then the way that you can know things are doing well is look at the engagement. A, look at the views, the first thing. Is it getting views? B, look at your shares or your saves. So shares are going to be when someone's like, I've got to tell someone about this, like either, oh my God, look at this restaurant, we have to go and try this meal. It might be, this is so you, this is something you'd do. And then saves are when you give them valuable education and entertainment. I'm going to show you how to fix your coffee or whatever. Or here's how you can brew our coffee at home. People save it because they want it for themselves to go back to later. Yeah. So those are the things that when you start getting that save and share, the views will also go up as you go through it too.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So I guess for people listening, we've got some tips here specifically on video content, which is going to be powerful for TikTok, Instagram, pretty much Instagram/Facebook.
Yep. YouTube Reels.
Reels, yep. So you can publish it out on lots of different content. I would also say that I think that some of this is relevant. It feels like it's relevant across all different business types.
The B2B might go more into a LinkedIn kind of world and that kind of thing, where for me, that can be more case study driven within the industry.
More text, more copy,
more
less
text,
video.
Opinions. Like go in there and have a strong opinion about something, pick something that you think is like the, an insight and finding that you have. But that's where you have to feel like for those spaces, you want to be a thought leader in the space and putting out ideas or even like reviewing and breaking down what's happening in the industry around you and making sure that you're a front runner or a thought leader in that industry or that space.
I guess I've always kind of thought about it that, shorter format content, the 30 to 60 second kind of space is obviously you can only fit so much information in there. So it's short snapshot things that capture attention and interest. And then you want to flow that through that you'll have a naturally narrowing funnel of audience, right?
Yep.
So let's say you've got 1,000 people watch a reel and are kind of interested. Maybe 50 of them are kind of more engaged with your brand at that point. They're like, oh, that was kind of entertaining or interesting, or they gave me a little insight. I'm going to click on the profile and go and have a look at the other things that this company does. And so then you might have some longer form
form YouTubes and it depends how it is, right? If it's a cafe, probably not. you know, unless you're like diving deep into like, here's our origin story about whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're a bigger business, like, yeah, if you're a roastery or you're sourcing, like that's kind of parts of the industry that would naturally lead to longer form content and that kind of thing. So yeah, the funnel would lead you down for like, who are the interest groups that you're getting in? Because YouTube long form is either people finding you through your channel, but they're searching it. You have to find things that people want to search.
Doesn't come up in a suggested feed.
It will if you have it will, but not as much. Like there's a lot more search on YouTube. You still get suggested stuff, whereas like Instagram and TikTok, when you're in Reels or that, it's just a free for all. Like you don't know what you're getting thrown at you. You're not like often people will go to YouTube going like, oh, I want to find out stuff about coffee brewing right now, and I go on a little wormhole and whatever happens. And there will be suggestions, but I'm searching for that content. For TikTok, you just sit down and go like, I want to look at random stuff. And then all of a sudden you're in a deep dive about, you know, black holes and, you know.
The coffee black hole.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I think this comes back to, I guess, when I'm doing brand strategy work with different companies, we often talk about the kind of the different types of content pillars that you might want to ensure that you're creating content around. So that's meaning like, okay, if let's say I'm a coffee importing company. So I'm bringing in green coffee, I'm doing B2B sales. So I'm selling to roasters. What kind of a business am I? What do they need to understand about me? And what kinds of different interactions do they need to have? And there's the idea of like the customer journey or the marketing pipeline, you know, going from broad awareness about a brand to a little bit more engagement with it, to trust and confidence that, okay, like I've heard about Golden Brown.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested. They're doing fun kind of content. And then I'm like, oh, and they actually know what they're talking about. That was a great technique. I tried it. It was a good result. Down to a decision-making process of like, okay, I've narrowed down, I'm going to buy some more coffee. Who should I go with? A company I trust and have confidence in. I'm going to order some coffee online from Golden Brown. And so you've got that narrowing pipeline, and social media is a broad brush approach, right? And so you kind of need to have content that is going to meet people at each part of that customer journey. So I would kind of say often, again, if we go back to that example of you're a green coffee importing company, you obviously need to build up just awareness about the brand. But what's going to engage people about your story and about what you're doing? And I think that comes back to those quick fire, doesn't need to be super in-depth things of like, oh, here's a statement about like coffee from El Salvador is some of the best in the world, or some kind of hook statement. Unpack it. People are like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I want to learn more.
The most underrated coffee that no one is having is this. You could save money because this coffee tastes better than this coffee that everyone's paying a bundle for.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, there's value in every line of like what people are supplying. And if you don't, like the power of how niche these platforms can be, like even for us doing a coffee podcast, it's probably like very niche in particular. The reels that some TikToks that sometimes pop off for us, like the one where we did it about Eversys. I think I said like the best coffee machine in the world is making the worst coffee in the world. I mean, that's a good hook. People are going to listen to that. Sure. But it's talking about an automated Eversys espresso machine, and that has 250,000 views on TikTok or something, and like this audience that got engaged with it. We had Simon on the episode a little while ago, and he was like talking about how every bar has an EK even when they don't need it. And that the TikTok algorithm sends it to the people who it knows want to talk about it, because that has 100,000 views. And you wouldn't think that just talking about having an EK on your bar is going to get you 100,000 views, but your audiences are there and it will help you. The algorithm, the good thing is, will start pushing it to the right people if you're concise and deliberate about what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I would say as well that you want to make sure you're measuring the right thing for the purpose of the content. So if you are creating content that's to create some more engagement with the brand and build a little bit of personality around it, maybe create a little bit of trust, then sure, measure the views and the engagement overall. We're kind of looking at broad exposure, broad engagement. Now, the deeper down that funnel you go, if I'm there about building more serious trust and credibility about me as like a green coffee importer, and I'm naturally going to have a smaller audience number. So maybe don't look at necessarily the number of views and compare it with your hooky reel as the metric for success.
Yeah.
Look at like, okay, what was the engagement like with this maybe longer form content, longer form post, and making sure that you've got those breadcrumbs in place. I think that's always the kind of the thing that we want to focus on is what's the purpose of doing these?
Yeah.
You know, it's not just to put out stuff. We're not just feeding the machine. It's like, what's the value for doing a reel or doing a long form post? Like, what's the next step for people?
And I think for any of those things, even with the long form post, there's a hard thing when we talk about, like, as you said, then like hooky. I think it's just a good practice for any piece of form of content that you're doing that you need to engage people and basically let them know what they can expect from what they're about to watch. Why should they invest the next either 30 seconds or 10 minutes with you? And what value are they going to get for that as you take them along the ride? Because I know I'm like that, like YouTube videos that ramble on at the start. It's like, just get to it. Hey, I'm going to be doing this today. I'm going to show you how to do this. We're using this machine. This is why it's great. Cool. I know exactly what I'm going to get out of it and go through. So I don't think when we talk about hook, people are like, oh, whatever. But what you were talking about before is like a green buy or whatever is just talking about why there's an underrated coffee is such a great way to bring people in and do that. One of the things that you were talking about just then that I often look at is virality versus value and where it is. And you can see it. Like, we have reels that might go like crazy viral with like 500,000 views here for the podcast. And then you look at the analytics and we maybe got 30 follows from it. And the numbers of the podcast didn't go up, downloads didn't go up. Then we do another reel that gets 30,000 views and we get 200 follows from it, 300 follows from it. And you can see there's a spike in the listens. It might be an episode that we launched 4 weeks ago. So we know, you can see on the graph, a podcast that we launched 4 weeks ago, all of a sudden there's a little bloop, 200 listens that are added onto that, or 1,000 listens added on here. So yeah, there's a difference of virality versus value, and making sure that don't chase the numbers. Like, it's good to know are people engaging with what you're doing, but also like stick true to your core values and principles and what you want to talk about.
Yeah, and there's the phrase of vanity metrics, right? Is that looking at a measurement or a metric that makes you feel really good, like, look at the number of likes I got. But is it actually indicating success in the reason you're trying to do this kind of activity? And, I think for cafes, that's like a critical thing. Maybe a little less so maybe with the algorithms now, but it was certainly a case where you could put up these beautiful looking photos or video of your cafe, that look gorgeous, get a huge amount of likes because people are like, oh, that's pretty like, but it doesn't actually change any of the reality for your cafe. You don't have more people walking through the door. You don't have people spending more per visitor, per guest, so it's like, that's a nice thing to do if you were creating just a social media brand, but really what you are looking to affect is engage with your community, engage with a particular audience, and are they the ones who are giving you the right feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that part of building trust, but also out there, like, I know this is a sad world and you don't have to do it, but if you can create an experience for someone that is more shareable in whatever way that means. That doesn't mean some crazy drink with a donut on top. It just means a great experience, right? The most value you're probably going to get from like a quick one-off thing is more so everyday content creators coming into your cafe, loving it and sharing that and being like, you got to go and check out this place down here. They're doing bloody amazing things with coffee. Yeah. That's going to be a quick turnover, kind of like the next day you might have a line out the cafe. Yeah. The stuff that you're doing as yourself is building long-term trust, value, and community building. Yeah, I would break it up into those ways. Should we look at like, even just like, let's think about different areas like roasters, cafes, baristas, and how it kind of like applies. I mean, they're large scale. If you're looking at like roasteries, I think Onyx Coffee Lab do a great job and they invest heavily in that. Like Morgan Drinks Coffee, friend of the show. She works alongside them directing a lot of that stuff. And they have everything from like recipes to seasonal drinks to origin trips to roasting to why they make certain decisions. And it's like a peek behind the curtains of telling all that kind of story. And they're a great reference point for if you want to do it. You then have more of a personal profile like Roaster Cat, who is sharing their experience, but making it accessible and doing that. One of their most viral ones, which I love, which is, actually making an origin trip shareable, which I find it often is not, is they hold up a cherry to camera and they go, if you ferment with the cherry on like this, then that's natural. And then she like pops it out. She goes, and it has the mucilage around it. It's like, if it's like this, it's honey. And then she puts it in her mouth and goes, and spits it out and goes, and if it's like that, it's washed. And it's that quick and it's that whatever. And it's like, that's the most engaging way I've ever seen someone talk about processing methods and the most views I've ever seen processing method get. So there is an interesting way to tell every story. Basically.
Yeah. And we do get, I think the coffee industry can get really stuck in its own head talking about, like in its own bubble, I guess, of like, who was saying this on the podcast that we're too interested. Actually, was it Jack that was saying before he won the World Barista Championships, dishing out the knowledge saying we are too interested in talking to ourselves as an industry rather than talking to customers. And I would extrapolate that out is that we're too busy talking to ourselves or trying to impress each other in the industry and not focus on our audience enough. Be customer-centric, be audience-obsessed, and put yourself in their shoes. What are they going to find interesting and exciting? Because there's a million options to choose from, a million voices coming at them. What's going to actually stand out?
So this is the biggest thing that you can do and ask yourself when you make any piece of content across any platform is don't talk about yourself. Give value to the customer. This isn't about you. Why are they going to spend their time watching your content or listening to what you have to say? What value are they getting from it? We worked with one client who was like, tell everyone, make a reel about our two blends, one that's the dark and one that's medium, and all of our selling points about our coffee. I'm like, if I turn around and go like, the dark blend, everyone swipe, don't care. I don't care. But if I add value to go like, you often see dark and medium roast coffees when you're out shopping. Let me tell you what the real difference is about them and what you might want.
Solve a problem.
Dark roast, and then you can talk about yourself as you do it. A dark roast is going to be lower in acidity. It's going to be bolder. It might pair with milk more. If you want something that's like a bit more roasty in that, like chocolatey flavors, like our one here, our dark roast, so you can still reference your coffee and then go, and a medium roast is generally treated this way. And so you're giving people value that even if they're not buying your product, they're learning something from it, but they can also look at yours and be like, I'm getting this great value for them. And there's a connected like understanding. So always, whatever you're doing, value-based. If we go to cafes that are doing it, I think it's called Little Joy. And these are guys who are getting like really good engagement, but nothing like crazy viral, like whatever. But it feels like it's the local community like in there where rather than being like, hey, we've made a new drink, check it out. It's our new fall drink. It's got maple syrup and it's got blah, blah, blah. They go out and they've done like 2 videos. They've done a series that's called Day 9 or like Day whatever of trying new customer suggested recipes until we find one that works on our fall menu. And so then everyone's commenting, no, try this one. No, do this, do an apple, blah, blah, blah. And then they make videos of trying these things. So then the community is getting engaged. Then people want to go in and try this new coffee and be part of it. They did another one where there are so many, it's kind of nice because it's making fun of TikTok and that there are so many recipes online. And a lot of the time it's like, who's actually doing this recipe? And so they did a series where it's like, we're going to teach you how to make our famous bourbon cold foam, whatever. But we'll ask you the question, do you really want to be bothered doing this? And
a lot of work.
They go through the process and it's like, but it also then hypes them up because they're going, we spend 48 hours infusing this. And you're like, oh, wow. They do. Like now all of a sudden I'm being educated about their drink and how much effort they put into it rather than them just going like, our bourbon latte, maple latte is made with this and made with that. They're
always
sucking
read
you in.
your videos with a monotone. It just helps engagement no end.
Yeah, but having those interesting ways of like, it's taking something boring like a recipe and being like, how can I involve the community? How can I give them I'm giving you the recipe. You can make this at home, but I'm telling you, you don't want to make it at home because it's really hard. Come in and spend the $6 with us. You know?
Yeah. And I think I would say that's like one of the biggest things that you see roasting companies or coffee brands fall flat with is that they start talking about the coffee and it's in a really abstract kind of way. And it's like, they're like, yeah, we roasted this and it's from here and here's all the data sets. And you're like, it's really not engaging me or exciting me about why would I go and try this? So I think that's, again, like we expect to be talking about the same kinds of things. Skip it. Go, what's the one most interesting thing about this product, coffee, drink, activity? And start with that and say, this coffee is revolutionizing the way Ugandan coffee is being seen worldwide.
Yep.
Check it out. Grown in Southwest Uganda. Like, it is full of fruit and berries and plum, not what you think of when you think Ugandan coffee.
And another way of just reframing stuff, like people might make a video where they've got a new blend and then they go into some like over the top thing about the tasting notes or about stuff. And it's like, oh, well, it has like notes of this. And it's like, maybe there's a funny video where you're like, here's our head of coffee development. He's written all these tasting notes about this coffee. And it's like, but screw that. What does this person who's never tried coffee think of it? Yeah. And then cut to someone and be like, yum. And it's like, that's a good tasting note.
Yeah.
Like, so you can still say the tasting notes over here, but then make fun of it in a way where it's like, well, let's be accessible to the people that, or like someone just breaking it down and being like, oh man, that tastes like tiramisu, or that tastes like hubba bubba. Like, we just said it before, like, Liam obviously has a greater understanding of coffee, but we were talking about the Ugandan coffee we had before. And as soon as you just said like hubba bubba to him, he was like, oh, grape hubba bubba. Like there's nostalgia, there's connection, there's something that I can link into. So it's just thinking about it in fun, unexpected ways.
Yeah.
Be unexpected. Do stuff that break the norm of what everyone else is doing. Nitro Bar is doing a good job. Young, female-led coffee company in the States, and they have a whole bunch of series filmed with their staff members. She'll do everything from like, we've got a new item on the menu. I'm going to try it and see if it's actually any bloody good. Or what's the weirdest coffee that we had ordered in the last week? And someone will be like, it was this. She's like, make it for me. I'm going to try it. And then she'll be like, that is horrible. Or like, that actually slaps. And it's just simple. It's her standing with an iPhone in front of her counter. It's in the cafe. It's working with her staff. Hey, staff member, what's the most underrated coffee thing? What's one thing you think should be taken off the menu? It's cafe culture. It's in there. It's honest. One of the viral ones I remember that I first saw her doing was like, hey, your girl's a little bit constipated. What's a coffee that will help me clear things out? And they're like, well, let's get into it. And they just do it. And, that's not the right tone for everyone. It's their tone. It's their brand values. It's a young, open book, irreverent kind of thing. That's who they are. Look at them. It's simple. They wouldn't take long to film. It's basically just highlighting their whole product range. Everything they do is just showing what they offer. So it's a really great way to be like, you can come in and get all these things. And we do it in a fun way. If Tom Cruise walked into the cafe right now, what coffee would you make him? Insert funny story about, well, that guy's high adrenaline jacked. I'd give him a quad shot, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's fun ways that you can kind of approach it. Other ones that are doing it well, then it comes down to, I think, if you want to be on camera, if you want to do this kind of stuff, it's a great way to build brand profile for you. Business would want to work in it. Work with the business to be like, I want to build my brand profile. Can I use our work time to help your business, but also help myself? Winnie the Pooh, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Pooja, who works at like the Brooklyn coffee shop. I don't know. Sorry if I'm butchering how that's pronounced. They're a content creator, actor, model, like whatever, working at a coffee shop. And they've turned these reels into these amazing acting performance things that are unbelievable, which you should look up. That's a great way to do it in a way that they're using their job as a platform to help themselves, but also help the business. But also, people, be clear with all these things. If you don't want to be on camera and you're part of a business, tell them I'm not on camera. Businesses, if you plan on people being in your social content, make it known. Do not hire someone and then be like, well, the expectation is you're in our videos. Like, we need to have respect amongst everyone and what they're doing. That's just a little like,
and it's a different role and a different skill set. And it's like, we need to recognize and value if people are doing that really well. Are you paying them a wage that's based around that, or are their job roles and expectations different? Just be clear and have an open conversation, because it is a changing landscape, right? And I think we talked about this a little bit with Morgan Eckroth when they were on the show, was that, you need to kind of just have that discussion, because baristas are being expected to turn up and suddenly also be talent and presenters on kind of whatever the content is being. And some people might be totally happy with that and might be interested in developing their skills there, and others might be wanting to kind of say like, hey, that's a whole different responsibility and I'm going to do it, but also it's a different job role. Like we're actually not hiring for the same thing.
Yeah. And I just want to pull up here what the regular reviews TikTok. I've got one example that's just an amazing example of someone that's maybe not like socially driven, who's like done an amazing job of just like where honesty, brand values and that like pays off. There was, I believe it was JL Patisseries over in the States. They had an influencer message them saying like, hey, I want to do a review about, I've got this many followers, I'll do a review about your place, like costs this much. And they wrote back and they're like, hey, thank you so much. We're a small business. We don't have the money to spend that on influencers and doing that. Then they wrote back and they're like, oh, well, I'll come in, but I just expect free stuff or whatever it was. And the people were like, I don't know if that's like what we're going to do. Thank you. Yep. And then they came in, and because of that interaction, they then like ate the food and just like ragged on it. They're like, this is fake pistachio. Like, this is like terrible. This is the worst pastries. They just did this like scathing review. And most people would just sit back and relax. The owner of this company did like a 2-minute monologue of like explaining it, being like, this is what happened to us and it is hurting us so much. We put in so much money. Here is all of the things that we import from Italy to make sure that it's the best. Here's the stuff we get from France to make sure it's the best. Here are the pistachios and the pistachio paste that we're using that like make this. We have this many people working, this many hours doing all this stuff. And I think because we're at such a climax of influencers and fake stuff that everyone just got behind it, got multi-million views. And then is it like, it blew up so much to the point that like Keith Lee, who does those like, I heard you wanted me to try out this place. We've got it. Let's try it and rate it 1 through 10. And he sits in his car. He then, because of this like blow up, went out to that place and then like shouted it out. Was like, this is amazing. This is fresh croissants. Look at the layers. Look at all this amazing stuff. So I think people view social as you have to follow these rules, but also be authentic and be yourself. Like this person just came out and was like honest with like, we're doing all the right things here and trying our best. And it worked out in the best way possible for them.
I think that's such a great kind of recap of that is think creatively about the content and about how you're going to present a story or information to people, how you're going to support them really as your audience and as your customer. But then, be authentic, be true, and keep referencing those values and the vision for where you want to take this business, what kind of a business you want to be. Because if you're trying to create stuff and represent yourself as a company that you're really not, it's not in your DNA, it's going to be an uphill battle to create content, but it's also just going to really, people sense that out and it's going to ring false and will turn around and bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
And so I guess following on from this, like creating great videos and creating this content and putting the thought into it, it all makes sense. It also sounds like a crap load of effort, right? It sounds exhausting to create videos and think about this all the time. Do you have any, I guess, advice for both, like where is that effort best spent and like where do you kind of call it and go, that's overproduced or that's too much? And also, are there ways of doing that in a more efficient way?
Only spend the time that you have where it makes it valuable and you're doing it. Don't feel like you're like, I need to post every day. I need to do this. Yeah. No, it's better that you make one piece of content in a week that's valuable and insightful and whatever than like 5 pieces of nothing. Like if you do another quick cut montage to a song of your roastery or your cafe, no one is getting anything from that. And no one's sharing going, we have to go to this place unless it's like next level insane.
Yeah.
Or if you are going to do that, have a text hook at the start where it's like the best new, menu item or whatever it is, like have something that's going to drag people in. But I think you can it depends on your brand values. I think you can be super humble in where you have to do it. Like everyone now has like an iPhone in their hand. Don't overthink it. You don't need to overproduce it unless you're some like high-end thing. But even high-end, if you're on TikTok, people want to see behind the curtains. If you're a high-end restaurant, like Fallow Restaurant in the UK, they just gave their chefs basically like a camera guy and whatever, and they just do behind the scenes stuff of like whether it's prep in the kitchen, how they get ready for service, how they prepare a thing. And it's just them telling their truth and their story. So I don't think that, I think that you can shoot it on iPhone and it be fine, and
Yeah.
you can tell that story. That one I referenced earlier of Chris Mabry doing the mist spritz, he was just doing it. I pulled out my camera, filmed it in 20 seconds, and then I edited it in the Uber back to the accommodation in 5 minutes.
Yep.
And, I have expertise in doing it, so it's like
It gets
time.
easier.
But yeah, put in your time and it becomes easier, but also like just do enough where you're learning from it and you know what you're achieving kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do it enough, you're not going to see why you are or not, why you are or are not succeeding.
It kind of goes back to one of our recent chats with Maxwell, Colin and Dashwood, when he was on the pod, and he's saying you need exposure to volume and frequency to be able to refine some of these skills. So it's like make 1 or 2 good coffees at home, great. You can get really good at that particular context, but you need to up the volume of exposure that you have both in tasting coffee, but also preparing coffee to really refine things. And I guess it's the same with this. It's like if you are only posting one thing every now and then, your ability to kind of get better at producing and turning out and planning is going to be a little bit limited.
Well, the falsity that's out there is there are so many of these TikTok people that'll pop up and be like, you need to be producing 3 reels, 3 TikToks a day to be getting the most value out of blah, blah, blah. The algorithm's going to promote you if you do 3 videos a day, this many stories. But the truth is making more videos is just practice for you, so you just get better at them. So yes, making more videos helps, but it's just because you're getting better and because you're seeing what resonates. The thing is, once you see what resonates, don't just go like, oh, that was a cool hit. Ask yourself why it resonated. What did people like about it? And then see if there's anything else. Can you take that topic or that idea and keep exploring it and keep doing it? Like you see creators online who they're a wood maker. They make wood, they do all this kind of stuff. And then one day they decide to infuse an ice cream with one of the woods that they're wood making and make a bowl. And then people love it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I guess this is a series. And then they're infusing a different ice cream once a week with a different wood and making a bowl from that wood to eat it out of. And all of a sudden, each video is getting 1 million views and they've just got this weird series that they're involved in.
Is that a real thing? The wooden ice cream?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
confused.
infusing ice cream.
Using ice cream into wood? Or
And he
wood
also
into
did one where he
What?
took so he'd take wood chunks and it'd be like, oh, that's being infused in the ice cream flavor. He then makes the ice cream and then he makes a bowl out of that wood and eats the ice cream out of it.
So a chunk of wood in the ice cream.
Yeah, little cut up bits of it.
I need to watch the video. I do not understand this, but it's viral. I will watch it.
But he
Maybe
also-
that's why people are like, what is going on?
Oh, but he did another one where he's like, I'm going to take the main tree from every state in America.
Yep.
And he took the tree, he told you about it, why it was the state's tree, what it's like, what the texture's like. And then he made a map of America where each state was a piece of that wood carved out of it. And
Yep.
so there's a whole series. There's 50 states. There's series that you can do. I was talking about day 9 of trying different recipes.
Yep.
There's something you don't have to try hard. Every day I know I'm coming in and I'm just trying a different recipe and that's what we're filming.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
series can be something that's really helpful.
Yeah.
That once you hit on something that works, keep going back, keep taking
Yeah.
from it if it's beneficial.
Yeah, that's great. So I think, if we were recapping for people, we've got set your vision, set your purpose and your values so that you've got an anchor there to keep referring back to about what are you doing, what are you communicating, why are you doing it. Then maybe work out the types of content that you want to be producing that will meet your business needs and your audience.
Yep. So that might be if you were like a roaster, it might be about like the types of coffee that you're doing. It might be about being ethical and it might be about your community partners. And you're like, cool, our videos are going to focus around those 3 things with our main core principle at the top of all of them.
Yep. And then you create the stories that help tell each of those particular topics. If we're talking about community, what are our stories about community? Oh, it's our community around our roastery. It's our community of cafe owners. It's the broader community of home coffee users. And you want to tell those stories. Yeah, that's great. And then in terms of production, we're kind of talking about keep it relatively simple doesn't need to be high-end production. Authentic stories will trump polished production.
Yep. Every day.
Every day.
Some of our biggest reels as Golden Brown are just like when we were shooting handheld with a phone. In fact, I think sometimes they perform better because people are like, oh, this is just some guy in his house. It's not some big production. It is authentic and real.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people want that accessibility.
Yeah. And then I think we're also talking about making sure that the content that you create is going to lead somewhere for people. Is like, what are you trying to get out of it? How do you measure that success? So do it enough times that you get enough data to see, is this working or not?
Yep.
And then make sure you're gauging the success of it based on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and try to
That make
drive
sense?
things in. Yeah, are you getting people into the cafe? Are you getting them to click through? Like, you can have a link tree in your profile that leads to different things, and you can track how many clicks something is getting through. So like there are wild ones. I remember when we did something with like a Lamazocco Linear when they released the new Mini, and I simply said at the end of the video, like, to learn more about their new Mini, check the link in our bio.
Yep.
And I think it had something like 6,800 clicks
Yeah.
over a day. And I'm like, that's 6,800 leads like going to this thing. Like that's measurable. That's okay. We're seeing the conversion here. And like I said before, if it's to get more engagement, more followers, look at those metrics. Oh, you got a viral reel, but no one followed you? Okay, well, there's a problem. You know?
Yeah. And I think if you're a cafe or a barista and you're trying to take that online, offline, right? You're trying to track the ROI from that online engagement, do a particular offer or some kind of thing, like bring this into the cafe, get a discount, get access to the secret new beverage menu, whatever it might be, and find ways to kind of give them an offer to track, is it coming through into the cafe environment? I think that's some great kind of framework for people. Hopefully it's been useful for everyone. I know I've kind of got a few takeaways that I want to implement with some of my programs.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, not doing like the sales pitch of it here, but I mean, obviously if you're engaged with what Ben's talking about, I mean, probably not on like a cafe level. Ben's probably working at a larger brand level, would you say, of doing that?
Chat with anyone.
We'll chat with, yeah, exactly. Have a chat, reach out. It doesn't matter. What's your company's name?
It's Sensory Agenda.
There you go.
Kind of the consultancy agency.
Yep.
So you can drop me an email or just send me a DM on my...
And what kind of things would you generally be working on with that?
Yeah, so we're doing, the brand strategy looks very different for each different company, right? Some of them it's more about reviewing and revising kind of where their strategy is at or those core mission, vision, values, like helping crystallize that because people have a lot of ideas and thoughts that help refine that. And some it might be more about, okay, we want a specific like 12-month activities strategy. We want a plan to go to market. So yeah, always open to discussing different things. And straight back at you, I know that obviously on your side, yes, you have Golden Brown, which is super fun, kind of creative and has a great following there. But you've also got PIZZASHOP Media, which is doing essentially this kind of content creation and social media kind of management for a whole range of different, generally hospitality related brands, right? Food and beverage kind of brands.
Generally like in that kind of thing, I think just because that's what we care about and find fun. We definitely sometimes like go elsewhere and do some other projects. Like we worked with Who Gives a Crap before and a few other like kind of brand partners, but generally in that food and beverage kind of media space. Yeah, we've got a bunch of teams that we work across with them. So always happy to hear. I mean,
You've got a Fangdangle new website up and going.
Yeah, we've got a Fangdangle, which we're kind of at like capacity right now. It's like, but you know the things where it's like we're kind of at capacity right now. We're like building that website, and that's when you can tell you don't really care. I'm just like, let's have a pizza just bouncing around,
floating pizza.
It's so not helpful for anyone viewing the website, but I think it's funny. And so when things are going tougher and we need more clients, maybe we'll move the pizza.
You'll know they're struggling. The pizza's gone.
Yeah, once the pizza's gone, be like, oh, things are going downhill for those guys.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your insights as well.
Thank you for sharing yours. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, and if anyone, always, reach out if you have any more questions on these kind of topics, like not even from like a working with this point of view, we're always happy to hear from the listeners. And if you have any further questions, you can hit us up on the socials, itsjustcoffee.podcast. You can hit us at our email, itsjustcoffeepod.com. hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. And as we said, we're always looking for new people here. I think we mentioned on last podcast, if there's anyone working in the coffee industry, especially in Melbourne, but anywhere really, but Melbourne would be ideal. It's in a journalistic kind of approach. we're always looking for people to help out with the pod and work with us here. And then for my other businesses, if you're just a barista that likes the idea of working in media, whether behind the camera or in front of the camera, there's opportunities there as well. So reach out. We want to hear from you. And you actually were talking about a new channel that you were launching, but it was on an adults only website. This content that you were talking about, you can share.
I'm calling us out right now. This guy tries to throw me under the bus end of every episode with some random statement.
Liam, what? Yeah, Liam, what? Ben was talking to you earlier. What was he saying?
All right, it's a team up effort here.
Pretty sure out of nowhere, he just texted me and said, "Good morning, bumper crop."
Bumper crop. Now we're just going wild. Never. Okay, we're going to end it there, people. We'll see you next time.
I don't know what's going on.
Bumper crop.
See you, everyone.